Good morning, Momentum Financial Planning. We are super excited to be joining you this morning with regards to some new capabilities that we are launching to you. But before we get to that, let me introduce you to the lovely people that are with us this morning, take you through this conversation. To my left, we've got Flobella Yates. She heads up Momentum Investment Consulting, our discretionary fund manager. In her team, we've got Dean D'Souza, who's the portfolio manager for the capabilities that we'll be talking to you about today. And on Dean's left, we've got Rupert Hissing, who is the business development manager and who will also be spending a lot of time with you post the launch of what we'll be sharing with you today. Now, I think it's important to move the conversation to why we're here. Let's start off by saying that the go-to-market strategy, and wait, let's just pause a minute. What is a go-to-market strategy? The go-to-market strategy is basically saying that there's a partnership, an alliance forming between Momentum Financial Planning and Momentum Investments that is looking to help deliver better advice outcomes, but also importantly, looking to partner the two businesses closer together to ensure that we deliver the right capability sets to you. So with that in mind, the way we're looking to do this is through a concept called vertical integration. Let's now talk about vertical integration. And importantly, before we even get into anything, let's define vertical integration. Vertical integration is essentially bringing together three components of this exciting value chain. Those three components are advice. This is your area of expertise. This is probably the most important conversation that needs to happen, and your role cannot be emphasized enough in the advice landscape. This is the role that you have with your client. It then moves into our platform ecosystem. Our platform ecosystem is as important for this journey as any other. And what we mean by our platform is it's Momentum Wealth and Momentum Wealth International, your beloved platform. The last component of the conversation is the solution domain. The solution domain is where we house our outcome-based investing philosophy in the form of the capabilities that we'll be launching to you today. And we are incredibly proud of the evolution that we have put together in partnership with Momentum Financial Planning for what it is that we'll be talking to you about today. Flobella, or as we like to call you, Flof. As many financial planners in Momentum Financial Planning do not currently use model portfolios, let's start off by just telling them a little bit more about your business and your discretionary fund manager.
Okay, thank you, Kapil. So, as a discretionary fund manager, we have a Cat 2 license. But before I even get there, I want to talk about the partnership between ourselves and Momentum Financial Planning. So the last 8 months has been such an exciting time for us. We've worked really closely with the MFP Investment Committee and your senior management to make sure that we build solutions that are fully aligned to your advice process. And the reason that's exciting is we're not trying to shoehorn your clients into a solution, but rather we've built solutions that talk to the way you, as financial planners, give advice. So going back to what a discretionary fund manager is, we basically are in possession of a Category 2 or asset management license. That allows us full discretion in how we manage portfolios on behalf of your clients. So what does this mean for you as a financial planner? There are basically 3 benefits to you partnering with a discretionary fund manager. The first is that our Cat 2 license allows us to bulk switch. In other words, we can make decisions across all your clients at the same time. So from a TCF perspective, your clients get the benefit of our decisions in real time. The minute we make the decision, we implement across all of your clients. The second is the ability to use our discretionary mandate to implement these decisions on behalf of your clients without needing a switch form. In other words, it frees up your time, because you don't need to go and get a signed switch form every time we need to make asset allocation or fund changes within the models. And the third is that it frees up your time to give better advice because we become your investment team. So we basically become an extension of your practice. And for us, it's personal. That's why we've developed this in conjunction with MFP, for MFP and your clients.
I'm absolutely loving what I'm hearing. You already gave us 3 compelling reasons as to why to use a discretionary fund manager. Let's maybe pause. Are there any other reasons that you haven't covered?
Well, I guess as your investment team, the advantage is you've got a professional investment team making sure we have access to the best fund managers in each asset class and that they're appropriately priced. So another big advantage is that you get access to preferential fees. We use all the assets under our discretion to negotiate better fees for you and your clients, so you get the benefit of that. The second is the compliance burden that it removes from your practice. The legislation and the burden it's put on planners is just phenomenal. We've got RDR, we've got FACE, we've got FICA, poppies coming in on the 1st of July, and it just seems to be never ending. So you don't need to worry about any compliance or the applicability in your portfolios. We manage that on your behalf. We also make sure that we negotiate the best fees we can for the funds we use, and those are automatically loaded. So as our assets, our joint assets grow, you also get the benefit that fees might reduce even further. And the other thing that you get from us is you've got a professional investment team with professional portfolio managers and people who understand advice, working together with MFP's investment committee and with all of you as planners. We rely on your feedback to make sure that we implement what you need without you needing to know which funds you're using. And obviously it simplifies the book. And the better your book, the easier it is for you to succession plan and hand over the book as you decide to exit or retire.
Previously, our discretionary fund manager wasn't available for access to all financial planners, but today we are making it available. Previously, the minimum requirements were also that planners needed 300 million Rand assets under management to access these model portfolio capabilities. So, tell us a little bit more about the solutions we are launching today.
That's actually a very valid point. In the past, and in fact most discretionary fund managers will only manage portfolios for larger assets. And the reasons for it are numerous. But our partnership with Momentum Financial Planning allows us to actually roll this out to all financial planners. So regardless of whether your book is large or small, you will now have access to the models. As I mentioned earlier, these model portfolios have been designed specifically for MFP's advice requirements. So what we have done is we are launching 4 model portfolios today, and they have been designed specifically to cater for your clients' financial needs, right from short-term capital liquidity requirements through to clients who are looking for long-term capital growth. So today we are launching 4 model portfolios for you. They are called the MFP Focus Model Portfolio Range, and they're made up of 3 Regulation 28 compliant model portfolios, the MFP Focus 3, 5 and 7 models, and the MFP Focus 7 Unconstrained model portfolio. These 4 model portfolios are available to all financial planners and can be used in conjunction with the normal Momentum Focus range, as well as the income solutions that Kapil will tell you about to cater for all your clients' advice needs.
I think it's important to just clarify one thing quickly, and that is to say that don't confuse the Momentum Focus range, the collective investment schemes or unit trusts that are common to you and are known to you today, to the model portfolios that Fluff has just described. This is brand new. It's an industry leading and a first for Momentum Financial Planning, and importantly, it has your name in it. That in itself is a first as well, and we're super excited to share that story with you today. Fluff. Now, I think the important order of business. Since this is a professional service that you're providing, surely there's going to be an increase in costs.
That's an excellent question, Kapil, and probably the question that we get asked the most by the planners. When you're looking at investment costs, you need to take into account the total investment charge of each of the underlying funds, as well as the discretionary fund manager charge. As you can see on your screens, when you combine the underlying fund charge together with our discretionary fund manager charge of 40 basis points, the total investment charge that your client pays is actually very comparable to other balanced offerings in the market. And in fact, in most instances, it's actually cheaper. Kapil spoke about the vertically integrated offering, and one of the benefits of that is that we look at charges across all levels. And he mentioned the Momentum Wealth platform. I'm delighted to announce that another big advantage for your clients is that we are able to give you a discounted platform fee, where we start the platform fee at 40 basis points instead of the normal 50 for smaller clients with assets of less than 1.5 million Rand. Another first and a great benefit not only for you as planners, but more importantly for your clients.
let's for a moment just pause and look at what's happening in the industry. And I think it's important to look at the retail advisor and their clients in terms of how they approach investing in a contract. There's this concept called split funding. Let's maybe quickly describe what split funding is. Split funding is a concept that says you have access in a client contract to a Momentum branded fund, but it is shared with other funds. So you've got Fund A, Fund B, Fund C, and that basically makes up your client contract. That is in a nutshell what split funding is. Now, when we take into account this concept of split funding, it's important to recognize that what we've seen with the study that we've done on our own platform, that generally there isn't a single solution for a single client need in a client contract. And there are reasons for this, which Fluff is going to unpack for us shortly. But I think it's important to highlight what the stats reveal. Essentially, what they say is that clients and through the advisors typically asset allocate across multiple fund managers, but they don't only do it at a fund manager level, the description I gave you earlier, they also do it through the vehicles that they use. Be it a structured product as an example, be it a fund of fund, which you are familiar with, as well as now the introduction of model portfolios. And it's important to then be able to understand the differences of these. So Fluff, maybe if you can help us to just understand the nuances in a split funded approach between a fund of fund and that of a model portfolio.
So I think the most important thing you need to be aware of is that when you as a planner split fund, the funds you are picking might not all be designed to meet your client's specific outcome. If you're using a normal balanced fund, they might be solving to beat the peer average. Whereas if you're using a Momentum fund of funds or the MFP model portfolio range, those have been designed with your client's outcomes in mind. So split funding doesn't solve necessarily for the outcome you're trying to solve for. The second thing is that the reason people tend to split fund when they use different funds in the fund of funds world is because they see the Manco name. In your example, Kapil, Momentum focused range. That doesn't mean that it's only the Momentum investment team managing those portfolios, because we actually know that some components of the focus range are outsourced to third-party managers. The advantage in a model portfolio is that you can see all the underlying managers immediately.
Thanks for helping us to understand that, Fluff. And for those of you that are attending this conversation, don't worry, these are foreign concepts to many of us. We will be spending time with you post the launch to unpack some of this in more detail. And in the same conversation we're having with you today, Rupert is also going to take you through some more information. Fluff, are there any important other differences that we need to take into account when considering the difference between model portfolios and fund of funds?
I think the two most important differences are in the transparency that you get in the two and also in CGT. So in terms of transparency, when you pick up a fact sheet for a fund of funds, you typically don't see the exact allocation to all of the underlying funds, and also sometimes not full transparency in terms of the fees, because the fee is encompassed into one entity. Whereas in the model portfolio fact sheet, you will see the underlying funds that each of your clients is invested in, and you also get the fee class that they're investing into. So there's a lot greater transparency. And then from a CGT perspective, a fund of funds has some advantages. Any asset allocation or fund changes don't trigger CGT. Whereas in the model portfolio world, it could give rise to a CGT event. Realistically, it's unlikely that we make any big changes through the cycle. They're normally at the margin, but you do need to be aware of that. It gives you an opportunity to decide which is most appropriate without having to decide on the underlying managers. That you will rely on us to do for you.
Thank you very much for doing that, Fluff. I've actually learned a few things myself, and importantly, those two factors are critical for planners to understand in navigating the choice between our fund of funds and the model portfolios. I'm sure, like me, you found that session incredibly intriguing. We're now moving on to the second conversation, and joining us for this one is going to be Dean D'Souza, our portfolio manager for these exciting capabilities. Dean, before we get started, I just want to almost throw the first question to you in a different way and ask you, is this different to outcome-based investing?
At its core, outcome-based investing has always been and remains anchored around three very important pillars. Firstly, a time horizon, which is the time required for the portfolios to achieve their different objectives. a risk budget, which is the risk tolerance per portfolio and or how much risk one is willing to take per portfolio, and then lastly, the return objective, which, as you know, would be aligned to your client's needs. These very important factors need to be balanced to ensure an optimal client experience.
So what I'm hearing from you, Dean, is that outcomes-based investing at its core and in its DNA is no different, and the way we're choosing to execute on it through model portfolios and through fund of funds is where the only difference lies. And to our conversation with Fluff earlier in the conversation, I want to move the conversation to a very practical sense. We are in this low return environment, as we know, right? So it's important to understand what the implications of this are in the context of the solutions that we're putting down. So Dean, in the context of our portfolios and using outcomes-based investing as a philosophy, how do we navigate the kind of environment that we are in at the moment?
Thank you, Kapil. I think it's very important that, as I said, outcome-based investing is still our philosophy and does not change. But that's not to say that the way we articulate and execute outcome-based investing doesn't need to change. As with any asset manager, we evolve, we innovate, we adapt to make sure that we can still deliver the client outcomes in this low return environment.
So Dean, what does this practically mean for an MFP planner when he's sitting in front of a client giving advice?
I think what this firstly means is that we had to adapt to this new normal in this low return environment. And we try to avoid the typical knee-jerk reactions that clients tend to make. And that is one of the biggest benefits of an investment team that is aligned to the MFP advice process. We can ensure that the portfolios and the advice process are completely aligned throughout the investment journey, despite the low return environment, to ensure that irrespective of the market environment, these portfolios remain relevant and they continue to add value to you and your clients. And let's not forget that throughout this process, you will continually have support from the MIC investment management team, as well as the investment BDM support through Rupert Gissing.
Dean, you made some very interesting points here, and I think it's appropriate to quickly just summarize and pause on these. Guys, market pandemics will happen, and we will go through various market cycles like the one we're going through at the moment. And Dean highlighted the importance of staying resilient to the investment philosophy and ensuring that your clients stay invested. This is a journey we will help you with. And one important snapshot that we should pause on is the importance of understanding the three-factor approach that Dean spoke to earlier. The time horizon that we need to get to the return that your clients and you put together that you're required to achieve, and importantly, the risk budget associated with that particular portfolio. Now, in a low return environment, it's important that we spend time in the portfolio construction process to give ourselves the best chance at being able to deliver what we commit to doing. And remember, these aren't guaranteed solutions. So, Dean, maybe help us. Tell us what that construction process looks like.
So as you have already noted, we have defined these objectives with MFP in mind. In partnership with MFP, we have created these objectives. But how do we articulate those objectives? And we do this in a three-step portfolio construction process. The first and most important step is defining the strategic asset allocations. Given that asset allocation is the primary driver of your returns, this is the proxy for those objectives, and this gives us the best possible chance of achieving the risk and return objectives we've set out. The next step of the process is looking if there is any way that we can enhance the returns that we get from the different asset classes, and we do this by way of strategy optimization. This is the choice between active management versus passive management, or a combination of both, which is reflected through smart betas. So, for example, in equities, you will be familiar with momentum investing, value investing, and quality investing. Or in the fixed income space, there is duration management, yield curve management, alternative asset classes, or credit. Within each of these asset classes, we look at the combination of these strategies to see if we can enhance the returns that you would typically just get from the market. If we do not believe that the use of an active or smart beta strategy can enhance the returns that we have modeled for in the strategic asset allocation process, we will default to a passive execution. And the final step of this process is the fund or manager selection. This is where we pick the optimal fund to execute on the strategy or range of strategies that we've identified in the second step of the process. Now, this does not mean that we will go chase the top performing funds or the top performing managers. Rather, we will choose the most appropriate managers to execute on those different strategies, because this will ensure that the portfolios behave as we've expected. And if the portfolios behave as we expected, we can then ensure that all the modeling comes together and your clients have the best possible chance of getting to the outcomes that we have defined in conjunction with MFP and to your advice process.
Let's now talk about what we are going to be launching to you today. Dean, tell us about the portfolios.
As Flof has mentioned earlier, we have made 4 model portfolios available exclusive to MFP planners. These are 3 Regulation 28 constrained portfolios as well as an unconstrained portfolio. Now, the first thing you will notice is that within each of the asset classes, we have used single asset class funds. This is because, as I mentioned initially, asset allocation is the biggest driver of returns, and therefore we have stuck to single asset funds to ensure we have control over the asset allocation and to ensure that that asset allocation is aligned to the objectives we have defined with MFP. Now you'll also notice that we use those same managers across each of the portfolios. This is because their allocations are guided by the strategic asset allocation. So even though you see an equity-only fund in the Focus 3 portfolio, the overall allocation to equity in the Focus 3 portfolio would not be significantly different to a typical low equity fund that you see in the market. I think the second point that is also relevant to highlight is the fact that there are a few momentum solutions in the portfolios. Now, as an independent discretionary fund manager, we would never compromise the investment integrity. And so, any momentum solution that appears in the portfolio sits there by merit and has undergone the same due diligence as any of the other funds. And in fact, one of the additional benefits we have is that because of our partnership with MCI, we can create and use solutions together that enhance the overall integrity of the portfolios. And just to touch on a couple of the managers, even though they are Momentum branded, they are still multi-managed, as Flof touched on earlier. So as an example, the Momentum SA Flexible Fixed Interest Fund is managed by Coronation and Prescient, 2 very well-known fixed interest managers, but also the Momentum International Equity Feeder Fund, which is managed by a global investment team, has some of the most world-class global asset managers underneath that hood. And so while the overall allocation to Momentum funds may seem high, the actual true allocation that is managed in-house is actually relatively small. And in fact, those are the capabilities that we are most proud of and would put in any solution. And I think the final point to note is that there is a combination of boutique asset managers, in-house funds, and well-established asset managers. And the combination of those 3 different types of asset managers ensures the most optimal portfolio integrity and gives you the best possible chance of achieving those outcomes.
Where does Momentum Collective Investments fit into this picture? The first thing you would have recognized is obviously the utilization of our funds in the Momentum Investment Consulting model portfolio solutions that you've seen today. But we haven't taken away our range of funds for you either. It's important to recognize though that we came from a world of in excess of 50 funds that are Momentum branded, collective investment schemes or unit trusts. What we've done to help you with this is to simplify our fund offering. There are now 6 funds. The Momentum Focus 3, Focus 5 and Focus 7 fund of funds that are available to you. And over and above that, we also have our cash and near cash solutions. Those are the Momentum Money Market Fund and the Momentum Enhanced Yield Fund. Those are our flagship capabilities, as you already know. And lastly, we have our Momentum Flexible Income Fund. Our Momentum Flexible Income Fund is the best representation of our fixed income IP and research, but also importantly, it brings together all of the multiple available classes of assets that are available in the fixed income space into one single solution, therein also simplifying our overall proposition to you. These solutions are available on both the Momentum Wealth platform as well as on Investo as the alternative platform that you use for recurring savings business. Now, where are the model portfolios available? And I think that's the last point that I want to make before we move into the practical conversation. And the model portfolios are exclusively available on the Momentum Wealth platform. They are not available on the Investo platform. Rupert, let's maybe help our planners to recap some of the salient points that we've described today and some others that you've thought about as well.
Flof did briefly mention earlier the differences between a collective investment scheme or unit trust as we more often refer to it and a model portfolio or a wrap fund. What is important to understand is with a collective investment scheme, it is a legal entity in its own right, and the investor will purchase units in the collective investment scheme itself. Whereas with the model portfolio, as we have with the MFP focused range of model portfolios that we are launching now, the client actually invests or purchases units in the underlying funds. When a client invests into the model portfolios, either through new business or through a switch process, and the client looks at the statement, they will see the underlying portfolios. It is important to remember that when we make changes in a model portfolio, as the client has purchased units in the underlying funds, this could potentially have a CGT impact. But because we do this optimally and at the margin, in most cases this impact will be almost negligible. Second very important point that I want to touch on is the investment mandate that the client has to sign for Momentum Investment Consulting in order to manage the funds, as we are a discretionary fund manager. This is important whether the funds flow in either through a new business process or through a switch. We always need the completed mandate, otherwise we cannot implement that specific investment. So that's quite a mouthful, but don't worry, if that sounds very complicated, I will be knocking on your door pretty soon in order to take you through the process and guide you so that you don't have to worry about anything.
Thank you, Rupert. I think there was some valuable insight that you gave to our planners. Now, importantly, we're bringing you another first. For the first time ever to Momentum Financial Planning, we've got specialist expertise on the ground in your office in the form of Rupert Hissing, whom you've now met, but also supporting Rupert in the field are two fund specialists, Emily Mahoko and Kirky de Kock, who will be joining him to helping you with this journey. Now, with that in mind, Rupert, I think it is important that we unpack your roles a little bit more clearly.
We heard you at Momentum Financial Planning when you've told us on many occasions that fund specialists and representatives from other asset managers and other investment houses often come to your offices, visit you and support you with their fund solutions. That is why I've moved over from a business development role in the Momentum Investment Retail Business Development area to a specialist role focusing solely on our investment solutions, and especially focusing on the MFP model portfolios in order to bring these funds to your doorstep, in order to ensure that you are comfortable with them and that you know, as well as our portfolio managers and our investment team, exactly what's going on in these funds on an ongoing basis. Remember, we are your personal portfolio manager and we are here for you, and we want to ensure that you are comfortable selling these solutions to your clients, knowing that we will give them the best possible opportunity in order to get to their stated investment objectives.
That's great, Rupert. Let's put our cards on the table now and tell MFP what is it that they can actually expect from us following this launch today.
What will follow the launch today is we will have engagements in a one-to-many and a one-to-one form where necessary. We will also be assisting you with book analysis and transitioning of assets into the model portfolios where you feel you need guidance and assistance in order to get you comfortable with these solutions. We will also be handing out a pre-launch pack which will include a Momentum Investment Consulting brochure and also a very comprehensive question and answer set that should answer most of your questions that you have. But if there's still questions that you have, and I'm sure that you are welcome to get in touch with me and I can address those, and we can set up one-on-one time in order to get you comfortable with the solutions, and let's get those assets and flows into our model portfolio solutions. Remember, we are your portfolio management team and we are here for you.
So, to Momentum Financial Planning, you have now heard Rupert, and the fact that all of the support is available to you, I implore upon all of you to use it. It's there for your benefit, it's dedicated to you, and we are super excited to be on this journey with you, as I said earlier. Look forward to the amazing work that's going to follow this launch, but I'm hoping that, like this whole entire setup has been, that you feel the excitement with us. Now, to wrap things up for us, the moment of truth for our Head of Discretionary Fund Management, Momentum Investment Consulting, I'm going to hand over to Floff. Thank you very much.
The bit I'm most excited about is the close alignment and partnership between Momentum Collective Investments, the Momentum Wealth local and international platform, ourselves as the MIC team, and most importantly with you, the MFP financial planners. We mentioned that we've put these together for your advice process. So everything we are doing is around enabling you to use them in the normal advice conversations with your clients. So when you're sitting down and want to apply the bucket approach, you can use an income or money market solution to address the short-term liquidity needs, and then a medium-term or long-term solution for clients looking for higher capital growth requirements. You can use them alone in isolation, or you can combine them. Everything that we have spoken about today has been designed to make the client experience for your clients easier, more importantly that they stay invested so that they can achieve their personal financial goals. For us as an investment team, it's personal. And we've designed these models and funds with that in mind. It's a client-centric solution, and we hope that your clients feel they are getting a personal experience from us. Thank you for your time.